Hello and welcome to Career Talks with Mentoria. Our passion is to help you discover yours, and through these webinars, talk shows, we want to give you a deep and realistic understanding of the career you're heading into. The more you know, the more informed your career and educational decisions. Today, we're going to have an incredible conversation on the world of aviation and building a career in it. If you want to build a career as a pilot, this webinar is for you. We have a very, very special guest, Group Captain Paramjeet Singh Ahluwalia, MSc Qualified Training Instructor on the A320 Tech and Performance, Special Subjects and CRM Facilitator, ex-Vice President of the FSTC, retired DGM Ops and Training for pilots from Air India, and qualified trainer for Prince 2. Welcome, Captain Ahluwalia, and thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us in our conversation today.
I joined Indian Air Force after doing my National Defence Academy, Kharagpur, Pune for 3 years, and then going to Air Force Academy, Dundigal, and then getting our commission. And I spent most of the time in fighter bombers squadrons, like 35, 5, 16, 6 squadron. These are all Canberra squadrons, and I was electronic warfare expert. The last assignment I had in the Air Force was Command Electronic Warfare Officer, in the Central Air Command. But most of my, tenure in the Indian Air Force as a commissioned officer up to Group Captain was instructional. So I have been in the Air Force Academy, Dundigal, training young boys and girls at the age of starting with about 6.5 onward, and I have trained very senior officers and also the junior officers of the rank of flight lieutenant and squadron leaders, and also the senior lot. So this is my one facet, that is of defense. Then I left prematurely from the Air Force and joined as, and superannuated as a Deputy General Manager, Operational Training from Air India. So I was training the pilots, the cabin crew, and the dispatchers, flight dispatchers. I spent 12 years with them, and later joined as Vice President, Fly-Wing Simulator Training Center, which have got 9 simulators on A320, Boeing, Q400, and we are doing all training. There are only 2 ATOs in the whole of the country. One is Air India and second is FSTC. So I was the Vice President of training there, and subsequently I have opened up my own institute where I train young children. My most famous program is 0 to Hero. I pick up children at the age of 10+2 and up to the airline. That means commercial pilot license, type rating, and subsequently airline induction training. All this is a part of our institute where we have experience, staff to deal with. You see, any young child, when he is in the school or college, he inspires to become. I never wanted to be in the Indian Air Force. I always wanted to be an Army officer. But, we belong to a family where our ancestors have all been in the Indian Army. So I lost my uncle, maternal uncle, we call it Mamaji. He was ambushed in Nagaland. He was a lieutenant, and that at that time I was just at about 11th class and appearing for National Defence Academy. But now filling the form, my mother told me, I don't want you to go to the army, because she was under the impression of 1962 war, where in the Chinese aggression our soldiers were not well equipped with logistics. So she said, you fill it up Air Force. So I joined the Air Force, and when they filled the form, that's the time I landed with Air Force. Yes, I want to confide that, my house in Chandigarh was on the, approach path of runway 09, and we used to see aircraft taking off and landing. So my aim in life was to get into the aircraft, and so I got into the training, and then subsequently I have been specialized into navigation and also into electronic cockpit. The motivation was twofold. As you grow higher in the rank in the Indian Air Force, you don't like too many of postings, because every 2 years you have to pack your bag and go. And I had a young child, and the child was going into class 8th and 9th, and I never wanted to pack my bags now every 2 years, because I wanted to make a career of my child. So in turn, this is the first reason I left premature. Second is, there's a lot of the Air Force which you saw. It is a very respectful force. You get dignity, honor, and whatever you think of as a young officer. But there's much more to that in the civil, and because at last we have to come into the civil and get adjusted. So I joined the civil, and I wanted to, an option was given. They were inducting instructors, to train the pilots for all their technical and other aspects of part of the flying. So I opted for it and I joined it. This is one of the reasons. One of the reasons I would say is there's a lot of disparity in financial aspects also. The payments, what a young first officer gets, I think the payment is equivalent to a chief of the air staff when he's retiring. So there's a lot of disparity in the money matters. So it was one of the things which I thought, let us try a hand on. So that's the reason I left the Air Force and joined the Air India. Honestly speaking, when you talk about pilots, commercial pilots, and their education qualification is 10+2 with physics and maths. Let me be very honest with you. No offense meant to the aviation industry, but the pilots are governed by labor law. What do you mean by labor law? That it's a vernacular training. I hope everybody understands what is vernacular training. If I go to the US, I want to become a pilot, I don't require any formal education. I just need to, understand reading, English, and writing. That's it. So there's no much of a qualification required. But when you talk about the Air Force as a commissioned officer, when I joined, it was 11th. Now it is 12th for National Defense Academy. But to be a commissioned officer, you have to be a graduate. So NDMA, you get a graduation from Jawaharlal Nehru University, and I got my graduation through NDA. I did my 3 years, and that was treated as 3 years of graduation. And subsequently, I did my senior staff college and did my post-graduation, which is called MSc. And apart from that, I'm also the associate member of Aeronautical Society of India, which is again, they are giving it to the professionals who they recognize that they have done extremely well in the field. So this is the way I have been, and this is the way the civil and by the way, these education qualification also require to have some professional qualification. You must have seen in my CV, I've written that there are qualification which DGCA approves it. They are on the performance of the aircraft, the technical aspects of the aircraft, the crew resource management. Then it is on the SMS. This SMS is management services. And apart from that, I'm also qualified on the Prince 2, which is after MBA. You are when you are in the middle level of project management. This is called Project in Control Environments. Prince stands for Project in Control Environments. And I am an accredited instructor, and I've trained the middle level, project managers all over the world, in America, in United Kingdom, then most of the countries in the South America, and apart from that, many other places. So this is one of my additional qualifications which I acquired during my entire service life. Now, to become an Air Force officer, or you want to go to the flying branch of the Air Force, you have two options. One is, at your class 10th onwards, you should have physics and maths in your 11th and 12th. So you should have passed your 12th class in physics and maths. Once you've done that, then there's the open competition, which is held by Union Public Service Commission, UPSC. And that first exam, which is held, is with a minimum qualification of 10 plus 2. The age bracket is around 16 and a half years. When you can compete, they give you 4 chances. Okay, up to 18 and a half, I think you are eligible to appear every 6 months. Now, this exam is called National Defense Academy. Okay, where all the 3 services, Army, Air Force, and the Navy, commissioned officers at the basic stage are trained. Now, once you pass out from 3 years from the National Defense Academy, then 1 year you have to go your specialized fields. Army goes to IMA, Air Force go to Air Force Academy Dundigal, and the Naval chaps go to the Naval Academy. Now, this is one way of getting into the flying branch of the Indian Air Force. The second is by Combined Defense Services Exam, CDS. Combined Defense Exam is also held, and that is not at the age of 10, at the educational qualification of 10 plus 2, but it is held at, after graduation. You should be a graduate, okay? And then there are 2 ways to enter the Air Force. One is called the short service, and other is called the permanent commission. Now, the short service for 14 years and permanent commission is till you superannuate. So, again, the competition is held by the UPSC, and once you clear the UPSC exam, then you will go for your medical, followed by a SSB, Service Selection Board, and then a merit is made. And if you make it to the merit, okay, then you are inducted into the flying branch of the Indian Air Force and sent to Air Force Academy Dundigal, Hyderabad directly, or elementary flying school at Bidar. Now, this is the Air Force way of entry. The civil way of entry is that you have to take again physics and maths at 11th and 12th stage. And you have to clear your exams, pass percentage. No percentage has been fixed by the Director General of Civil Aviation. DGCA is called the Director General of Civil Aviation Authority, who gives you this license. They are the one who conduct written exam. They are the one, those who, endorse your license of various aeroplanes. They are the regulatory body. Now, for commercial pilot license, you have got 4 phases. The first phase is that you should be medically fit. So medical examination has to be cleared. There are 2 types of medical examination, class 2 and class 1. Class 2, if you clear, then class 1 is little more in depth for the pilots. So in turn, a little more strict. They check you everything on your, heart, your eyesight, your, EEG, every aspect. And once you clear your medical and you are fit, then you should start doing your ground subjects. The ground subjects is of basically air navigation, metrology, regulation, aircraft systems, general and specific, radio transmission, RT. These are the 5 subjects which you have to clear. Unless you clear these subjects, you cannot get your license. But it doesn't stop you from flying. You can fly the aeroplanes without these subjects getting, you clearing the exams, but you will not get your license unless you clear these 5 papers. Okay. Now, coming down to the next phase. The next phase is flying. This flying is in India, you have to do 200 hours. In any other country, we generally send our students to abroad. Okay, and when we send them to abroad, most of the countries which are ICO, associated companies, I mean the world, the countries which are signatory to the ICO. ICO is an International Civil Aviation Organization, international body, okay? And there 260 hours are required. Now in this 200 hours and 260 hours, more or less the syllabus is the same. What is the syllabus? The first step of flying is private pilot license, which is approximately 50 to 60 hours. After that, you have a instrument rating, okay, which will take another 40 hours. Then you have a commercial pilot license. You can do a multi-engine or you can do a single engine. Generally, my students, I make them do multi-engine first. Okay, there's advantage, disadvantage. This is a little into depth. I won't cover here. But once you clear, after flying approximately, 150 to 160 hours, okay, then you're required to do a multi-engine, okay, or sorry, my mistake. First multi-engine and then single engine add-on. This is a broad syllabus. But in India, what you do is in 200 hours, you complete your single engine and you are ready for your commercial pilot lessons. And when you go and fly a multi-engine, they endorse multi on your license. So this is the process. Once you complete a commercial pilot license, does not mean that you are guaranteed for an airline or for a general flight. You have to do a type rating. Type rating means it's something like I have a license to drive a car, but for heavy duty vehicles, I require endorsement that yes, she is entitled to drive a heavy vehicle. Same is the case in the aeroplanes. Up to 5,700 kilogram of max takeoff weight, you can fly with the CPL. But for higher heavy aeroplanes like Boeing, Airbus, okay, Q400, ATR, these aircraft require a type rating. That type rating is initially done through the ATO, okay, and this is a training organization which conducts simulators. Like I told you, I was the vice president of FSTC, and they are the one who conduct this type rating and then get it endorsed to the DGCA. Once you are with CPL type rated, then you have to prepare for an exam. Okay, whenever the employment is required by the airline, they will advertise it. Okay, so many pilots required for so and so type of aeroplane. If you are type rated on that aeroplane, then you have to prepare for a written exam. Open exam, okay, not very tough, but maybe 200, 250, 400,000, depending on what graph, at what stage you are preparing for this, for getting inducted into the airline. So once you make it, then there is a interview, and they also have some sort of a pilot aptitude and battery test, something like that, where they check you that how well you fly the simulator. Okay, and once you're done with it, they have a one-to-one interview. If they find you fit to be an airline pilot or a general flying, you are inducted. So these are the two ways. One, I told you about the Airforce. Now, here when I talk about commercial pilot lessons, everything you have to pay. There is no subsidies anywhere. But when you go to the Airforce, anything after you join, as soon as you join a cadet, you start getting salary. There enough stipend, something to the tune of 50 1,000 rupees you start getting apart from your clothing, your food, your everything is free from when you join from the Air Force. But when you join to the airline, the cost approximately the cadet program on the civil by the Indigo is we are charging anything between 1 crore plus 1 crore and around 20 lakhs. That is the cost. Okay, although the flying school, the Ahluwalia Pilot Training Institute, which we are running, okay, we charge nearly half. Around 60 lakhs may we do the same thing what the Indigo is doing in 1 crore 20 lakhs. So you can see the financial aspects of also I told you, the education requirement I've also told you, medical fitness I've also told you, and I've told you all the intricacies which are there between the two. My opinion, this is that in India, when you go out on the street, you find, if I have to compare with the developed countries, okay, if on the road there are 1 or 2 guys, here you can multiply by 30. That means on the same road you will find 60 guys, whereas in the developed countries you may find 1/30th of it. The population is so high. And same thing happens in our flying schools, flying clubs. Okay, they are heavily loaded. Okay, 1 aircraft and they may have already 25 guys, they are training it. Although 1 aircraft can only maximum train 6 people. Okay, in a sense, even if you continuously fly. But you know how we people behave. We try and take get the admissions of so many students. So aircraft to trainee ratio is very, very high in India. Number 2, flying hours are 200 hours. The rates of cost of flying is, as I would say now, it is more expensive than abroad. To give you a case in point, my student who does 260 hours, he pays approximately 4-5 lakhs less than what he pays in India. And the only thing is, one, when you go and fly abroad, your license is recognized by most of the countries of the world. Like, for example, an American license or a British license, if you get, okay, this license is recognized by most of the countries of the world. But if I take my Indian license, that license is not recognized, maybe only a few countries like Bhutan and Sri Lanka and such countries. Okay. Now, here is a little clarification I want to do to all your audience, is that this license which I get in the US, Australia, England, now this license is very easy to convert to the Indian license. Just about 7 to 8 hours of flying and not any much of test. The guy, one inspector takes you for a check and just about a 1 lakh plus expenditure. So you get 2 licenses when you go abroad and fly. One, if I go to America, I've got an FAA license. FAA is like a DGCA of India. Okay, so this American license I have, and when I come back to India and convert it, I've got an Indian license also. So with 2 licenses, much better prospects for employment compared to many of the airline in their employment advertisement. They clearly mention that we would prefer if the trainee or the person who's seeking employment will have more than 2 licenses. Some people have 3. What they do? America says they hop into Canada. 1 written exam of regulation and you have a Canadian license also with you. So many of the Indian pilots have got 3 licenses: Indian license, American license, and Canadian license. And the second thing, you asked me advantage and disadvantage. American license and some of the Australian and the British license are lifetime. Our licenses, Indian licenses, are for 5 years. So that means, what is the, for a layman, the people who have not ever been to the aviation industry, it means that tomorrow I go to US, I want to hire an aeroplane. okay, and to pop in my relatives and my friends and my wife to the various beaches. I can hire one check that guy will do, okay, that you are current, and you hire that aircraft and fly if that aircraft is endorsed on your American license. That are the advantages. Okay, so it's very. I would highly recommend cost-wise. Even if I talk about the flying schools, there are dime a dozen in these Western countries, the world, American, various other countries, developed countries. Okay, whereas they are very restricted here in India. I can count in Maharashtra how many are there, one or two. There are maximum 2 or 3, flying schools in a whole of state. Whereas if I go to Florida, I'll count 35 to 40 bloody flying schools, and they are doing extremely well. Number of aeroplanes are too many for the students to learn, and instructor-student relationship is extremely good. Why? Because these instructors are here, instructed till the time they fly. As soon as you land, you may be a buddy taking them. We are taking the same bar, enjoying the same food. Going on a picnic together. There is a little, I would say, hierarchy. There's a steep, gradient in the Indian cockpits, not in the developed countries' cockpits. You see, when you talk about the challenges, the biggest challenge for a flyer in the civil industry is medical. If you are medically down permanently, you lose your license. And when you lose your license, okay, you have to have some backing. So what the backing is, most of the pilots, those who are flying the airline, they are very heavily insured. This is the reason why they are very heavily insured. Accident rates have come down 0.01 per 10,000 hours, or maybe maybe a little figures here and there, but the accident rates have reduced tremendously. It is more safe to fly in the air than drive your car on the road. That's the safety aspect. But what is dangerous is once you're medically down, you're gone. Permanently down. Temporary, no. Temporary, if you can get back, fine. And the medical, strictness has also reduced. Earlier, if you had an open heart surgery, you can never get back to the cockpit. Now, you can recover and get back. People having cancer, they have recovered and get back to the cockpit. Earlier, it was not. Okay, the strictness in the Air Force is heavy because they are mostly the fighter pilots and the people who are doing, high-skilled flying. Okay, not a civil flying like, takeoff and landing. They are into a different, skill game. So for them, medical is a little more strict. Now coming to the education, right now it is 10+2, but we are keeping our fingers crossed. It could be graduation anytime. Okay, because DGCA has been, contemplating this. But looking at the world, I told you it's a vernacular training all over the world. Vernacular means like a carpenter, you're like a blacksmith, anybody who's like skilled labor. The same job is of a pilot. But when I say that, it doesn't mean that it's the same, but I'm just clubbing it. You can make union. Why? Because it is under the labor law. Okay, so too much of, yes, things have tremendously improved in the aviation industry. The modern systems which have come, like your TCAS, Traffic Collision Avoidance System, EGPWS, Enhanced Ground Proximity Warning System. In fact, when I'm talking to you, there are, high-level developments which have taken place. There will be one man in the cockpit. Okay, no two men, no pilot, co-pilot. One man cockpit. And I was just having a discussion in my group of the Air Force. Okay, Boeing has undertaken, flying of a fighter aeroplane without a pilot. So things are now more of a computer flying than of a manual flying. So these are the things which are changing the world scenario in both of the education as well as now. The only third thing which I thought is important to discuss with your audience is the employment status. Okay, it's like a graph, sine graph. I remember when I joined Air India in 2005, all these, many of the pilots who have done their commercial pilot license, they were doing any mundane jobs like, somebody working on a computer, somebody has got his sales shop, somebody's somewhere, not to the cockpit, other than that anywhere. Now things are, you see, from 2005, when I reached to 2006-7, suddenly, there was a heavy demand of pilots. All these chaps, they renewed their licenses, they were back to the cockpit. Now, you people are all going through your newspaper, news channel. Pandemic has created havoc in the aviation industry. Not only aviation industry, all industries actually, all related industry. You know better. Okay, that how many hotels, restaurants, and how many things have shut down because, but this is a temporary phase. If you are made up your mind to become a pilot, by the time you are in the cockpit, it make you 3 to 4 years, or maybe 2 years if you're the 12th cleared now. Okay, things will change. The demand will come back. But as I am talking to you, the employment right now is difficult because too many pilots have been sacked because of heavy losses in the aviation industry. Now, the domestic flying is becoming like you're traveling by train. To be honest with you, if I have to travel from Delhi to Bombay or Bombay to Delhi, the cost of the ticket is as good as Rajdhani Express fare. And I don't think things have changed for decades. Whatever I paid when I was in NDA so many years back and what I'm paying now, there are hardly any change. The petrol prices have shot up, everything is shot up. So you be rest assured that the employment will be, seeked for the pilots a lot. Why I'm saying a lot? There are going to be approximately 4,000 pilot shortage after the post-pandemic, session starts. Because you see, the aircrafts are there. Take a case of your own aeroplanes in Indigo. They have about, I think, 200 plus Airbuses, okay, and only 70 to 80 are, flying. So tell me one thing: where are these? They are going to make all those aircrafts to fly, and they have to induct pilots. But right now things are bad. Countries are not allowing. Okay, so they're picking up freight and going from one place to another, making money. But things will change. So if the answer to your question is post-pandemic, employment will improve tremendously. You see, when you ask me this question, where do I find the employment part? Okay, you will find the employment part. Firstly, all airlines have their own website. And when you go to these airlines' website, you go on employment. Whether it is pilots, whether it's dispatchers, whether it is ground staff, or whether it's any other, things, you will find there. Okay, and their employment will be, listed there. Other than that, this is a big racket, money-making racket which the airlines have made. I must share with you that any airline, when they want to have pilots, they make a program called cadet training program. And what is this cadet training program? They give you a letter of intent before you join. With that, we have the intentions to employ you after your everything you do it. That means everything what you do it means what? You should have got your commercial pilot license, you should have passed your written exam, all these things. You should have done type rating, you should have been clearing all your interviews, everything. And if you do that, then we have the intentions to take you to the airline into so-and-so type of aeroplane. Now, There's a clause to that. What is the clause? They also say that if you fail in any of your ground subject or you're flying, whatever money you have spent till then will go down the drain and you'll be sent back home. Second is, it's a letter of intent. It doesn't mean that, they are legally bound to employ you. But what do these airlines do? For example, the cost is 1 crore 20 lakhs. Okay? They will outsource this to some of the companies which are doing it. And from them, for each student, they may charge you 30 lakhs. That company is paying 30 lakhs for letter of intent. Okay, rest of the cost is what? 90 lakhs left from 120, 1 crore 20 lakhs. If I paid to the airline 30 lakh for each cadet, and I have, taken the outsource. So you can imagine that is the way the money is being made in the various aviation industry. So it's better for all of us. That's what my students are. None of my students are unemployed. And all of them, those who got my training, done everything, okay, I prepared them so well, and in turn, they are able to apply, because when they ask for an employment, one is induction like this cadet one, and that is open to the people who are qualified. So there's a good chance that you will not regret if you prepare and do things on your own. The Air Force life is very glamorous. Same is the case of the commercial pilots, those who are employed in the airline. But the difference is quite a lot. What you get in the armed forces, you can never even dream in the civil. The joke used to go like this, that the Air Force officer lives like a king but can never be a king. Whereas a commercial pilot, he never lived like a king, but his lifestyle is like a king. Okay, because everything is borne by the airline. He goes, he's like an ambassador. If I am taking a flight from Bombay to New York, as soon as I land, I have a 5-star hotel to, check in. All expenditure, transport, everything is on the house by the airline. Same is with the Air Force, but the Air Force has got its own style. What is the style? One, that you are a recognized gazetted officer from the day you put your tabs on your shoulders, okay? Whereas you are not under the labor law. You are a gazetted officer. You are, more or less extremely responsible citizen with a lot of powers invested in you. But in the civil, I'm not trying to put the civil pilots down, but many of them who join 10 plus 2, and keep on, because their job is only flying. Unless you become from line pilot to the executive pilot, where when you say executive pilot means what? That you become a part of the airline for administration also. Okay, but most of them opt for line pilot. Line pilot means you go and do the flying, come back home, nothing more than this, nothing less than that. But when you become an executive pilot of the airline, then you may be, like say, deputy general manager, you may be a director, you may be a functional director, like that. So you have to run the airline. So these two things are separate. Now coming to the FS again, you have good benefits like you have officer messes where you are treated like an officer, because Army, Air Force, Navy, and the police salutes you because being in the uniform, you are entitled for it. Not that whether they respect you or not. When you are in uniform, you are the respect has to be given by saluting the ranks which you're wearing. No such thing is in the civil. Civil may, the guy who tells you chops off at the airport, that's the guy, he'll just put your salute up, one. Other than that, there's no salute for you. Yes, you are the commander, flying 360 passenger. You're responsible for their lives. Everything is there. I told you, the charm here is if you want to enjoy life, money, glamour, and the way you wear your uniform, civil. Military is a different ball and game. If you like sports, you like honor, you like to live a style of a military or a uniform personnel all through 24/7 on duty. So these are the things, whether you're in Air Force or whether you are in civil. When the aircraft is in rough weather, okay, you start, even if you don't believe God, you start remembering the God. Okay, this is one. Number two is, I told you, the medical aspects. Yes, if you go down in the Air Force looks after you. If you go down in the civil, the insurance looks after you. Okay, airline may not be doing much well for that matter. Now, the other ugly aspect is, you see, life is not at times. If you want 9 to 5 life, you just can put it in the shelf. Why? Because in the civil, that you may be taking off at 2 o'clock night. If you're taking off 2 o'clock night, you have to be 2 hours before at the aerodrome. 12 o'clock, you have to be at the aerodrome. Okay, if you have to be at 12 o'clock at the aerodrome, you have to start from home at 11 o'clock, at least 1 hour before. Bombay mein to may have to start 1.5 hours before because there's so much traffic. If you have to start 1.5 hours before reaching the aerodrome, you have to get up at least 2 hours before that. Okay, because you have to dress up, you have to do everything what is required to be done, and you are not allowed to have even a glass of air. 0 breath and visor values are expected now. So your life is, little haphazard the way. If you are very systematic in your life, that you want 9 to 5 and you want only morning flying or evening flying, or you want only domestic, you can't go to international, or you want international, you want to do domestic. These all ruckus things are there, and which is the ugly part of the aviation. And then the family life gets disturbed. Okay, if you are on an international flight, in a week you are there out of the house for 4 to 5 days. When you come back, okay, you have come back from America, you find that your time zone is different. Okay, so when you took off from there was daytime. When you land here, again it is a daytime. Okay, but you realize 18 hours you have flown, and you are tired. You find it's not a night. So it's things, you see, time zone also at times makes you so sick. You don't, get back to your normal self. So these are some of the, I think, gray areas. You see, when you grow in the Air Force, it's a rank structure. Your first rank in the Air Force is flying officer. And then as you keep on, there up to wing commander is time scale. That means generally if your confidential reports are good, flying officer, flight lieutenant, squadron leader, wing commander, group captain, air commander, air vice marshal, air chief marshal. These are the hierarchy upwards. Okay, so anytime if you are not making a grade to the next rank, you are given an option to get a release from the service, or be ready to work under your junior. I would say pension, especially when I say pension in the sense, if you have put in the service which is required to be done in the Air Force, a commissioned officer is very respectfully paid as a pension. Now coming to the airline, you join as a first officer. From first officer, you become senior first officer. From senior first officer, you become commander. Okay. From commander, you can go into various facets, like you can be an instructor, you can be an examiner. Okay. And if you go into the executive side, that means not a line pilot, but the executive side, then as the airline has the hierarchy, you may be, like, for example, to give you a hierarchy of the Air India, we have a joint general manager equivalent to what we call that as, the first staff appointment in the airline. And from Joint GM, we have all the GM, General Manager. After General Manager is the Director, and from Director to the Executive Director, like that. And then you have the CMD, okay? He is the head of the airline. So pay-wise, yes. A first officer, you can, I think, maybe drawing as close to 2.25 lakhs. Okay, if everything is right. With pandemic, things have been reduced tremendously by the airline, but not that badly. Okay, mostly the first officer, you get around 2,25,000, and by the time you become a senior first officer, it is about senior first officer. You get if you're getting good flying, in the next 2 years or so, you are a senior first officer, and your pay jumps from 2.25 to 3 lakhs plus. Okay, 3.5 or something. And when you become a commander, the pay jumps up, anything between 4.5 to 6 lakhs, okay, depending on what type of aircraft you're going in and what type of the airline. And as you keep on becoming an examiner, type rating, and all these instructors and all, there's additional pay. And as far as I recollect, that some of the pilots have been paid as high as in India. I'm talking India. Bahar to much more than that. But in India, as high as 10 to 12 lakhs people are taking home, okay, gross salary from the air. The validity of any of your, whatever checks you've done, they are for 1 year. And when you have the proficiency check, it is done every 6 months. So there are a lot of checks, and because you see, remember one thing, this profession, if you make a mistake, there's no forgiveness. You pay the price. And when you pay the price, you don't only lose your life, you really take so many people who are behind sitting passengers, and they are looking at that you're a good pilot and you're flying the airplane. This is one aspect. The second aspect is, okay, I told you, if you're good in flying, you're good in ground subjects, okay, and you are doing very well, then automatically you will get a slot of being an instructor, examiner, okay, like that. So that means your skills are recognized in stages. You should be recommended. When you go for your checks, you should pass those checks, both written as well as in flying and as well as on the simulators. So in aviation, especially in the civil side, there are a lot of checks and balances which are kept. In the Air Force, Aircrew Examining Board, then there is a Director of Air Staff Instruction, DASI. They are the one, they are coming onto every station and inspecting how the people are doing, whether you're in the flying or whether you are even in the ground. There are a lot of checks and balances. So things are tremendously, the skills are ensured that they are top class. When you say, when these, I only made a mention of it, that they are heading for, instead of 2 men crew in the cockpit, 1 man, and the other one is going to be controlling many aircraft from the ground itself. But that doesn't mean the employment will reduce. I'll give you a case in point. When these computers came, there was so much of resistance. These computers are going to take the work of the human being, and will be left high and dry, unemployed. It doesn't work like that. It works like that when these things happen, there are so many additional things which are associated along with that, which suddenly start taking shape. Now, I'm giving you a case in point. Now, answering to your first question and relating to the second as well. Why were the pilots being paid so heavily? They were being paid so heavily for one good reason. There was, if you look at the World War II, I don't know how many of you are interested in reading the war books. You'll find that pilot life was very short. Okay, the engines will fail, the aircraft will, something happen, it will go down. And in the World War II, you know how the things were. And but things started moving toward modernization, towards automation, artificial intelligence. Now, when I'm talking to you, what Airbus, 380, this aircraft is capable of taking off, doing the entire flight on computer, landing on automation, doing taxi on automation. That means it's called fly-by-wire. You don't touch the controls. The aircraft is capable of flying on its own and 100% safe. There are other very, very modern systems which have come into aviation. Like I gave you, we call it as a TCAS, Traffic Collision and Avoidance System. I don't know if you recollect, there was mid-air crash near Delhi, Charkhi Dadri, where two aircraft went into each other. Now, this type of thing may not happen. Not that the safety has come in, because there are systems which have been now made mandatory if the aircraft is flying. It gives you warning. It tells you there's an aircraft. It is closing in. It's closing at so and so speed. You pull up. You do this. You tuck in. Like that. There are modern versions of TCAS 1, 2, 3. So the third one, it will give you vertical separation, horizontal separation, and the longitudinal separation. So you can imagine if you have such systems on the aeroplane made mandatory, it gives you enough warning, boss. You are closing into another aircraft. You are in the cloud. You can't see the other aircraft. Where is it? But if the system has the provision and the ability to forewarn you of such a dangerous situation. Similarly, if you look at the history of aviation, many pilots have landed with the undercarriage up. Because when you do the checks, or you have forgotten to take your undercarriage and you have landed, your traffic controller has also not noticed it. The aircraft has landed with undercarriage up. Now this thing won't happen. It's not that it doesn't happen, but there are again, the human beings are there. There can be enough mistakes still committed. But there is a system on board which warns the pilot that your undercarriage is up. Please take your undercarriage. Take your flaps. Your speed is low. Your high angle of attack. All these things are now become integral part of the modern aeroplane. Take a case, another beautiful thing I will show you. Have you used a GPS? And GPS, when you are driving, it tells you now this is the hotel passing by, this is the road, you turn left, so if this is the accuracy here, the same global positioning system in flight, gives you so much of accuracy, it can tell you that how many, nautical miles or kilometers on the left or right of your track you are on the route which you're going. Like route is ATS routes are something like your, roadways. The roads, the way you go on the roads, we go on the airways. So you can go on the airways so accurately using such modern systems. Another example of instrument landing system. Today, there are systems which are available on zero visibility. The aircraft can land. It can do taxi. It can come to the dispersal, switch off. Everything can be 0-0. Bahar kuch nahi nazar aa raha. The aircraft can be brought down to landing and to the taxi and to the stop. So these are, so you can be rest assured that this does not mean that employment of the pilot is in jeopardy. Because firstly, the influx of the aeroplanes are increasing tremendously. आगे अगर 100 थे तो अभी 1000 जहाज हैं. आगे अगर 1000 थे तो अभी 10,000 हैं. So automatically, why? Because the safety is there. People want to travel by air. All the small cities are connected to the with the aerodrome. The aircrafts can land, heavy, big aircrafts can land. So I don't think the employment will get affected because of modernization or for artificial intelligence. You see, when you say aviation doesn't mean only pilots. They're much beyond pilots. We have engineers, we have doctors, we have flight dispatchers, we have ground handling staff. Okay, you name them, they are the one who make these aircraft fly up in the skies. Okay, yes, there's the man sitting on the controls, but more than that, similar. So that's one thing you must. I don't know how many of your audience wants to become pilots or into the cockpit. The cabin crew. You see today, many of the airline, the cabin crew is the face of the airline, because when you board the aeroplane, do you see the pilot? You don't see the pilot at all. He's in the cockpit. This is locked. You can't even go. You will get accused of hijacking the aeroplane if you ever get into the cockpit. It's not permitted by the directors in the civil aviation. Whom do you interact with? Cabin crew. Okay, and so much of employment. If there is one aircraft, you require 2 into multiplied by at least you saw 6 times. You require 12 pilots to fly one aeroplane, because shift, hours build up. So इसके लिए एक जहाज के पीछे approximately, I'm just giving you my figures. Okay, 12. So you can imagine if there are 12, how many of cabin crew are required for one aircraft? 6 times लगा लो आप. कम से कम नहीं तो 25 to 30 ready cabin crew is required for one aeroplane. So employment is, you can see for yourself how big is the employment. Then the hotel industry. I go and land up in Bombay. I want to spend 2 days and go back. Okay, I want to go into a hotel. So all these hotel industries are also associated with aviation. The more the people are moving in the skies, landing at different airports, the more they are going to be into the hotel industry and other industries.
We're now going to open up to audience questions.
Good evening, sir. This is Manish. My question was, I'm a serving pilot. I'm a short service commissioned pilot in the Armed Force presently.
Okay.
And I'm a helicopter pilot. So what is the scope, sir? What is the scope of a helicopter pilot in India in the next few years? And but what I've heard is that the scope is slightly less when compared to the fixed wing for the helicopter pilots in India. So if that is the case, then what are the options available for a helicopter pilots?
Firstly, to start with, helicopter pilots have got equal, avenues which are open. I don't know how you say that because a lot of my course mates are helicopter pilots, and they have been flying up, and they have got an employment. Go to dgca.nic.in. This is a website of DGCA. Open the website. Go to rules and regulations. It is on the extreme right hand side. Okay, and go down and go to Act 1934. Under Act 1934, there is given Aircraft Rule 1937. Go to Rule 37, and under that there are various schedules, rules and schedules written. Go to the last part of the schedule, press it, you will find various schedules are listed. I will request you to go to schedule number 2. You will find they have given how a helicopter pilot can also switch on to the fixed wing airplane. Okay, many of the things are exempted for our armed forces pilots. Some of the written exams have been exempted. There are flying aspects also where the helicopter pilot, I remember I had one Commander Gill. He was a pilot from the Navy, and he has been flying Boeing 777 in Air India all through. Okay, he converted. There is a provision to convert your license to a fixed wing. This is one option. Second option is, if you still want to fly the helicopters only, then just be on the lookout. You will find a lot of avenues are going to be opening up after post-COVID. And I would like to share with your audience. My website is Ahluwalia. It's AHLUWALIA. Ahluwalia pilottraining.com.
Thank you so much, Captain Ahluwalia, for these incredible insights. I'm sure that any person wanting to build a career in aviation, wanting to become a pilot, would get a lot of value after listening to your experiences and thoughts. To all of you watching this webinar, watching this podcast, thank you so much for taking the time out. We hope we've been able to give you a deeper understanding of careers in aviation or becoming a pilot. If you have any more questions, feel free to write to us on info@mentoria.com and we'll answer them on the next webinar that we have for pilots or aviation. Right? You can also visit mentoria.com, log in and read information right there.